Yeah, yeah. Never not, never under y'all, never ever, I'm forever on. Check my repertoire, check my repertoire, don't check me not. Let's just checks involved. I've been feeling like I'm next to God, next to God, next to God.
past that, um, like we sat down. I was pulling guard out of a tower, and he came up, and we spent like 4 hours from like 12 to 4 talking. And it was like the first time that he was like actually like on a level with me. I felt like we were always on this, I don't know, competition, or like he felt threatened by me or something like that. I don't know if that's the case. Maybe it was just my head and the way I thought. And we so ended up going out on a mission, coming back from the mission, vehicle rail rolled over and then cut him in half. Um, and I remember sending him off in the old plane, and like I'm watching everyone cry and like be upset about this situation, and like I felt odd for not crying because I was like, I didn't like this man. But then a part of me is like, well, he was a human. Like, should I have looked at him wrong for so, like, hated this man, did not like this man for so long? Like, should I have looked at his faults for so long? Um, and then not, I guess I'm kind of like bouncing around, but like and then so I brought that up to my counselor, and she's like, that's like survivor's guilt. And I was like, how is that survivor's guilt? Because it's like, but she considered it survivor's guilt. And then I also have another story, but I'll add that one here in a bit. But it's weird because I'm the only one. His grandmother is like who raised him, and I'm like the only one that stays connected with her. I contact her on his birthday, the day he passed. Like, I check up on her, and I feel like no one else does. It's like people will go and post about him on Instagram to get that, oh, look at me, I did something, and then kind of get that, I don't know, recognition. But it's not like they actually, maybe that's just because I have that guilt feeling, but it's weird. It's a weird feeling. Like I catch myself trying not to like hate people so much, I guess, and try to like look at better and build relationships. That's why I don't try to hit, like right now, like people are like, oh, I don't like that person. I'm like, I don't mind them. There's very few people that I can't tolerate now. But yeah, I'm gonna stop talking because I think I'm just rambling. Let y'all talk.
All right, so hey Buck, can you hear me?
Yeah, you got me.
All right, yeah, everybody got Buck. So hey guys, this is Jason Bourne. Him and I were in the army together, like when I first got out to Germany, and he's had a really amazing, an exemplary career path, and I was chatting with him earlier today, and he's gone through some of the same things, and he's going to be really well spoken when it comes to all this stuff because he's smarter than the average bear. So, Buck, we're kind of talking about PTSD, survivor's guilt, and why suicide is so prevalent amongst veterans or even active duty. So the guy you'll see, he's wearing a white shirt. He's got a headset on. That's Danley. This is his show. You know, we were in the same company in Germany for a long time. The other two guys, Strunk and is it Beach or Bach?
Beachy.
Beachy, yeah. They know Danley and they served with him.
Nice.
What's going on, Buck? So Beachy just told a story where essentially he hated his squad leader like for the entire time the dude was a squad leader. And then his squad leader ended up getting, he ended up getting cut in half, basically. And he kind of said something along the lines of everybody else was upset, but he wasn't because he hated the dude. And then after the fact, he's the only one that like even keeps in contact with the grandmother. And I feel like it took a lot for somebody to say that, especially, I mean, I know we don't have any viewers right now, but like to say that on recording, you know what I mean? That's a lot to express. And as far as what you were saying, Beachy, I think it's normal to hate the dude, you know what I mean? Because there's plenty of dudes that have died that I've known that I low-key couldn't stand the motherfucker, you know what I mean? But that's not me saying that I still don't have respect for what he did and who the dude was. But I feel like for me it's disrespectful to after somebody dies to like try to clout chase or like be like, oh, woe is me type of shit. Like, you know, I'll give the dude respect. I'll be like, hey, bro, you know, to all the people that still fucks with you or that fucked with them or that was best friends, I'll talk to them and be like, yo, I'm sorry, you know, this, that, and the other, but I'm not wearing that dude's bracelet. You know what I mean? I just feel like it's a little disrespectful after the fact, you know?
Yeah, dead can't defend themselves.
For sure.
Yeah, and I think, you know, like we talked about yesterday, a lot of stuff with that whole survivor's guilt thing is like, you know, unfortunately, for everybody, the first thought that usually pops into their mind when, you know, somebody comes across the net as, you know, hey, so and so's got hit or we've got a casualty or something like that. Very first thought that, you know I personally can't help but think is like, I'm glad it's not me. Of course, the immediate thought right after is like, you know, hey, you know, who is this? And, you know, how bad are they? And what can we do? And, you know, especially with, you know, knowing who it was and not liking that person, you know, it can throw a lot of guilt on you because to a certain extent, it's almost as if you're glad that it's them instead of glad that it's not you.
Yeah.
And, you know, that can have lasting effects.
Yeah, I've never been scared for my own life. My greatest fear is something I did or didn't do would result in the death or injury of a fellow teammate.
Facts. Facts.
And that's the most horrifying thing you can experience is when a teammate dies or close friends dies. It's horrifying.
This is very true. And then I know me and Eddie were talking about this yesterday, but for me, after I got out of active duty, there was like, because I mean we all served, you know, in some capacity or the other, and we know that there's like this structured environment to the military where like they tell you what's right and wrong or what to do and what not to do, or if you don't know, a book will tell you, or if the book doesn't know, you have somebody who does know. So there's always somebody to look to, or, you know, but then you come out into the fucking real world and there's nowhere to really turn, and you low key are by yourself, and then everybody who's still active, you're like, you try to reach out, but you guys just aren't on the same op tempo anymore. So it's like you feel weird about the shit, and you want to like talk to him and be like, yo, I'm doing great and I'm doing amazing. You don't want to be the one calling like, yo, I'm fucking struggling, bro, this is tough. And then for me, it was like, once those emotions started piling on top, it was so and so is dead, right? Like I had this lieutenant who was amazing, and he ended up getting cut in half too by an EFP when down in RC South. I found myself comparing myself to the life that he could have potentially lived versus the life that I'm actively living, where I would tell myself that he would be doing better. Why isn't he here? I shouldn't be here. It should have been me that died that day. I should have died on that deployment. Like I'm not worthy of being here. And then that led me to, you know, the bathtub with a fucking 9 and the drinking myself into oblivion every night, like all of those things.
I've been down that road.
But
Am I the only guy here without a camera on? Is that what's happening?
it looks like it.
Yeah. Yeah. No, we figured we don't have the Jesus level approval to see you speak in real time.
Well, I did half-ass shave today, so. Is there any rules to vulgarity of language on this thing?
Just don't say the N-word.
Yeah, just don't drop any racially charged words, I guess.
What about religiously charged?
That's fine with me. I'll roast religion all day.
Yeah.
But only Christianity. That's where people are at these days. We'll only roast Christianity. Everything else is Satan.
Yeah, I mean that's kind of like the kick that everybody's on right now. Is, you know, they talk about separation of church and state, and it's like, okay, you know, they try to push that to the side now, and they say, well, maybe we need more religion or more church when it comes to dealing with matters of the state. It's like, that's true, but it's really only true if it's Christianity. If you have like a Muslim president of the United States and like separation of church and state lines tend to blur, like there's going to be huge uprising as opposed to like now where you got people like DeSantis saying like God's armor and fighting the war and that kind of shit.
Yeah, for sure. I personally believe that there's certain aspects of any doctrine that tells you that the power is outside of yourself. And that was like the one thing that I learned through every time I've been to therapy. Like I went to rehab. I went to rehab the first time when I was 13 or 15-ish because I was smoking meth, and then I got out of rehab, joined the army, went to fucking therapy again a few times, then ended up in rehab again. And the common theme through all of therapy is you have to find the power within you to believe in you. And I feel like most of those theologies are divine command theory, essentially, is the doctrine. So it's something external to you, and it's not about you. Because I know that problem I was just describing, the way that I've been able to overcome it is through inner shadow work. And when you start to use the word shadow work with certain Christians, they believe that it means something other than what it does mean. So like Carl Jung, when he's talking about the shadow and the ego, he's really talking about your subconscious and the things that you believe about yourself. So like everything that I've done in my career, I start to project onto other things, like the people that I'm working with or somebody that I'm talking to, where like I start to simulate everything that I could potentially have done, or the negative things that it's usually all of the bad shit that I've done. I start to believe that this other thing can do it back to me, and I start to get real afraid of everything outside of me, and that's where the PTSD comes in. And for me, I was just an evil fuck to my wife and my kids when I first got home, where like I thought she was out to fucking, I can't even describe what I thought she was doing. You know what I mean? There was times, and you've met my wife, Eddie, like when we were getting back together and like working on things after I'd fucked up, bro, I would be on the phone with her and she's like literally putting my kids to bed or something, and I would hear like a noise in the phone, and I'd be like, yo, she's sucking a dick. She's sucking a dick right now while she's on the phone with me. Like while she's on the phone with me, I can fucking hear it. And then I would cuss her ass out, and then I'm a psychopath because you like.
I think thoughts like that go through everybody's head. I mean, shit, there were times where I was deployed, and I called home to talk to my wife, and she, answered the phone, breathing heavy, and instead of like, okay, well, she ran to the phone, I'm like, no, she's just hopping off a dick right now, and she's just trying to catch her breath from that, and it's so ridiculous because that was not her personality whatsoever. But unfortunately, when you spend a significant amount of time downrange and wake up every morning and think, okay, am I going to live or die today? Your brain tends to go to extremes with thoughts. So what do they say? Expect the worst, hope for the best. So whenever you call home, it's like, okay, she's with somebody else, but I hope they suck at whatever it is they're doing, kind of thing.
That's guys in our profession. We just think of worst case scenarios. I mean, that's how we get away with doing dangerous things. In fact, control, and that's how we do it, by thinking worst case scenarios.
I agree 100%, and I don't know how much you guys utilize the same doctrinal terms that we do, but like in an op order, when you have the most dangerous course of action versus the most probable, right? I feel like the reason our demographic ends up disproportionately killing themselves is because of that specific thing. So we were talking about it yesterday, but for us, every solution to every problem is death or killing. So like if there's an objective that has to be secured, especially like at least at the infantry level, the way that we secure that objective is by killing the enemy that's on top of the objective, right? That's our most dangerous course of action always, because we're trying to protect ourselves. And like you said at the beginning, none of us want to be responsible for a dude to our left and right dying. right? I never wanted to be responsible for if I had just done the battle drill a little bit cleaner, or if I had been in the position that I was supposed to be in, that somebody's going to die next to me. So then we have all these pressures on ourselves, and then that, I think that's direct link to why we end up being so quick to cut that cord.
Yeah, my buddy would say something like, when you're a hammer, everything's a nail. That's exactly what that is. Like killers of men. That's what we do. So for hammers, everything's a nail. That's how we problem solve.
So this was a term. Hey Buck, I want to say Ty posted something about this operator syndrome. You heard of it?
What I don't really know is it
Operator syndrome, and I'm just reading one of the definitions off Google. May be understood as the natural consequences of an extraordinarily high allostatic load, the accumulation of physiological, neural, and neuroendocrine responses resulting from the prolonged chronic stress and physical demands of a career within the military, specifically speaking, special forces. Basically, it's like, and when I say we're, I'm talking about conventional army. Your piece would obviously be the unconventional. But basically, we get so used to operating at such a high level of stress and dealing with, kind of the ultimate question in life, and that's in choosing if somebody's going to live or die, that, when we get back to the real world, the civilian world, and we don't have to deal with those situations anymore, and we're operating at lower levels, we feel that everything that doesn't have to do with life or death is just so beneath us. And, when we're taken out of, being a soldier, it's just nothing seems to compare or be as exhilarating as, and terrifying at the same time. But being in war, doing war stuff, everything compared to that just kind of seems like, this is just a slow Tuesday.
Yeah.
And I think that's like, I saw a meme and it was just a dude in kit shooting at somebody, and it's like PTSD is knowing that you'll never be this awesome again. And like that's that's kind of how it feels sometimes, like. And then when you really reflect upon that, it's like, wow, is like the peak of my life, really measured by, hey, I was killing a lot of people at this point in time. Like, where do I feel like I peaked? Where I was at my best, doing what I did and doing it better than anybody around me. And like I said, thinking about that, in the sense of, well, I was killing people. It's kind of morose, it kind of makes you feel like, okay, well, I'm not really good for anything except, that. Over.
Like first world problems, like when you say like nothing's life and death, like just petty bullshit that everyone deals with. It seems like such a first world problem is like the best way like I can describe it to myself. Like, mad because someone cut them off at a light, like, or like last night at the bar, some dude got mad over a bar stool, like, and it's like, I'm not gonna argue with you over a bar stool, like, bigger issues literally in the world than you getting upset because that guy touched your chair. Chill out, buddy. Like, it's not an issue.
I agree. I disagree.
Danley,
but go ahead.
well, operator syndrome, stuff like that. You and I have talked about this before. So the brain is different muscle groups, right?
Sure.
So when we're in those environments, we use certain muscle groups within our brain. We're firing on certain functions. And I'm having a retard moment.
The amygdala and the hippocampus specifically.
Yeah, and that's so we're firing that one constantly, just going off, and we're living on that So then, like, when we have to decompress off that, we can't.
Hmm. So there's a term called habituation, and it's usually used in relation to like negative events, but you can be habituated to positive shit. So it basically just means like being used to it. So when Eddie's talking about this stress response in your brain and the op tempo that you're used to, and you become habituated to it, it's very similar to like growing up and seeing a horrible relationship between your mom and dad to where you're habituated to it. So whenever you're in a normal, healthy relationship, it feels fucking weird. Like it feels weird when there's not problems. Like I know I'm not the only one that's experienced that, where the moment things are going good, I start to chop myself off at the ankles because I'm afraid that the world is going to do it for me, and I'd rather be the downfall of myself before something else brings me down. So that's kind of like the other side of that habituation argument, where you're saying it's first world problems. My question to anybody who would say that is, do we really want our children to have to experience third world problems? No answer?
I'll leave that up to my kids. Let them decide that.
No, yeah. I mean, Buck's right. I mean, it's kind of hard when you hear people complaining about, like Strong said, like first world problems and stuff. It's like, look, they're not legitimate problems because nobody's really dying. But the flip side of that is like we chose to do this. We chose to be part of this profession and to do specifically what we were doing. So we made the choice to go forth and deal with these life or death situations, so that others that we cared about wouldn't have to. Unfortunately, having gone through those things and we come back and we see people making things that seem so small to us, a huge issue in their heads. We tend to look down on that, and just like I've said before, everything affects everyone differently. But I mean, I kind of like what Buck said. Like, yeah, we did a bunch of things so that the people we care about can won't have to deal with them. But ultimately, it's going to be their decision. If they want to go forth and do anything remotely like what we did, then that's their choice.
Go ahead, Strunks. But I want to be clear with my question. My question is, do we want the world to fall apart so that our kids have to deal with third world problems? Because to say that it's all first world bullshit is almost the exact same thing as saying that this should all be stopped and we should go back to some other time, is at least the way that I interpret that.
So, like, you could say, like, problems, like, it's a crutch, right? It's a way to deal with it. So we've all survived our own worst days. My worst days are different than your worst days, or his, or hers, or theirs, or whatever. Like, we've all survived our own worst days. Like, easy. It doesn't matter if you grew up in Uganda or the United States. Like, days. Like, crediting someone, like...
Your iPods, is that what you're using to talk? It's not picking up your voice sometimes, so it's really hard to follow you.
Go, let's go, Mark, go.
Can you talk
Anyone
again? Yeah, that's better.
Alright, so, like, first world problems, right? It's just, like, call it a coping mechanism.
Mm.
So we've all survived our own worst days. There's, your worst days are different than mine are different than his are different than hers, whatever. Like, it's not to discredit anyone because, like, just because you haven't experienced the same things I've experienced doesn't make you less of a person or more of a person. Like, we're all on this floating rock in space together. Like, so to answer, like, do we want our kids to have to, like, deal with legitimate third world issues? No, absolutely not. Like, what's the statistic? I think just now we hit 20% of the world has access to clean water. Like, go to the bathroom, go to the sink, take a shower. Like, no one thinks of that. I don't want my kids to have to, like, run 5 miles through God knows what just to get to drinkable water.
That's fucked
You
up.
know? Yeah. I mean, and I don't think anyone would wish that for anyone's children, you know? I think people should struggle through life to an extent, but, like, no, absolutely not. There's, no one wants to see the collapse of society, and anyone who does, like, has talked to a professional, because that does not sound like a good day any day of the week.
So Eddie said something earlier where he said, my life peaked, and I remember feeling that way when I first got out, where it's, I don't know, you can pay this back to, we've all kind of grew up in the same era. I mean, within the same 10 years, we're all 10 years apart from each other. So G.I. Joe and fucking Halo and all of these games and media that made soldiers like heroes and like this ideology or whatever. So we could say potentially that we were all programmed to become soldiers. Maybe. That's maybe true. But at the end of the day, the good thing is that all of America looks at us like we're heroes of some kind. So I remember for me, if the thing is that if I had died in combat, I would have died a hero and I wouldn't have lived long enough to become the villain that I actually am. And nobody would have known how horrible of a person that I actually am. And these thoughts, so like in CBT, you have 3 different types of thinking. You have automatic, I can't remember what the other one is. It's like subconscious, and then the third one is schemas. So the automatic one is things that you are it's conscious, sorry. It's awareness. So it's ones that you're fully aware of, like actively thinking, like when I think 2 + 2 is 4. But then there's automatic ones where, what you were talking about earlier about the op-tempo, Eddie, where your amygdala and your hippocampus start to work in conjunction with each other. And the amygdala is based on fear, but it's actually based on survival. So what's the thing that kept me alive the last time, so I can remember it, so I can do it again this time. So every time I'm in a situation that reminds me of that, I have a fixed action pattern is what it's called, or a battle drill. It's a group of collective tasks rapidly executed without a deliberate thought process. So my automatic brain, my reptile brain, starts to fucking do shit before my awareness even knows. And then when these subconscious thoughts start to happen for me, it was like, I was better here, I'm a piece of shit now, and all of those things were like about my body. You know what I'm saying? Because none of us were like out of shape soldiers. All of us were like at the top of our game at some point, right? During some event or some shit, like climbing a mountain, we were the first one, whatever. But the problem is, nobody's ever really taught us how to communicate with ourselves, like in here, like this thing, because this thing is my own worst enemy. This thing is the thing that, when all of you are gone, you know what I'm saying, and we're not talking anymore, and I'm here by myself, what is it that I actually say to myself, right? Because I feel like that's the conversations that ends up where you end up at the end of a barrel, or you end up at the other side of a bottle.
Yeah, and unfortunately, I think that kind of feeds into, something else that we were talking about, like regarding the suicide rates being so prevalent with veterans, is like you feel like the best you'll ever do in your life has kind of already happened, and now you're just kind of existing, and when people talk about, hey, the downfall of society, I know it's, like I told Danley earlier, I have those delusions of grandeur that, like, oh, hey, I'd survive the first wave of whatever wiped out the human race, but, I probably won't. And, and it's not because, hey, I want to see the world burn, but it's like, the way I look at the world and the sacrifices that we've all made and the shit that we've all gone through is kind of like, well, what did it change? The people in power still have more power, and the people with money still have more money, and the people that decide, hey, you guys go here and you experience these things, uh, they never have to go and experience them. So for me, it's like, hey, if the world collapses, then hopefully it's that there's like some universal cosmic karma equation, and it's the way of life, kind of like you know using checks and balances for all of these people that are getting over. Um, but yeah, it's just yeah. I don't know. I'm battling right now.
So you're kind of hoping for, like, just to rip a quote off from somebody, but like the arc of the moral universe is long, but it bends towards justice, and you're hoping that if there is a societal collapse, which whatever, if there is one, like your justice, like just like in relative terms.
Not that I'm justice itself, but more like that whole what goes around comes around thing. And these people that have been manipulating the system, taking advantage of the system, at the expense of the majority of the population, they'll get their comeuppance, as they say.
I mean, that's more than fair, because like at the end of the day, we're all just tools, right? Like the military is a tool, and every person in the military is, a tool. It's a weapon. It's whatever. So like for us to struggle, and then for people to get rich off our struggles, it's sometimes it's a hard one to eat, I guess. So like if they're like, and I've been guilty of this more than anybody probably, like if we did break down to Mad Max, like that's our go. Like that's our 15 seconds of fame almost. I guess it'd be the way that I would justify it to myself.
You're useful again.
Yes.
Yes, absolutely.
All men want to be useful, right? That's in a relationship. Like when you're thinking about like your wife or whatever, like every fight I can think of with my wife is because I felt useless to her at some point. I felt like I wasn't what she wanted or what she needed in that moment, and I'm doing my fucking best, but it didn't come out the right way, and she took it the wrong way or whatever, and then I feel useless. And then because I got out of the military, I lacked purpose, right? We lacked an end state, or at least I did. I had no idea what the fuck I wanted to do. I had no idea what the fuck to do, so I felt useless. And then I just remember thinking that if the world collapsed, I could take over the whole fucking Southwest. You know what I mean? Like those delusions of grandeur that you were talking about, because that's what I was good at that, and I'm still good at that, and everybody else sucks. You know what I mean? But that doesn't mean that that's what life should be. Like it's the difference between ought and not. And I don't think life ought to be that way. And once I've made that distinction in my head, then well, what should life be? And then working through that. But the hard part is when you look at Facebook or the media and all you see is death and destruction. Right? And when we were talking about these criteria for PTSD the other time, that is one of the largest criteria, is that you see everything as the enemy. You see the world as like an unsafe place. And the more I went to therapy, the more I started to realize that, maybe not realize, but it started to become aware within me that it wasn't just the army that did this to me. It was also in my childhood. You know what I'm saying? Because there was things in my childhood growing up the way I did that I have been like this my entire life. and it's been habituated in me to believe these things and see the world this way.
For just because the topic is, or it's been said multiple times, you've had your purpose during the military and now you're out. And then I have 4 individuals right here. What are some of your guys' like, obviously, like, gentlemen, I've noticed like people that have gotten out and have families, they kind of find that purpose of like, I get to spend time with my family now. Like, I'm more family driven. So I see a lot more like single soldiers or single individuals that have gotten out. They're the ones that are like really roughing it. I don't know if that's like just my view or what I've seen. I don't know what y'all see, but like
I agree.
for someone that is going through that, like, how do you redirect your purpose? Like right now, like I'm going to college, but I'm over here like, these kids are idiots. Like, why the hell am I doing this? This is useless. Like, I have such a negative view to it. I'm doing great in it. I don't know how, but I am. But it's like, I just hate it. And it's like, I want to do something else, but I don't know what to do. And,
What do you
that
want?
whole thing. What's that?
What do you want?
Well, I mean, that's,
in the
I
end.
could go.
In the end. At the end of your life, in order to say, the question I asked myself, I guess, was, what do I do how do I die and not regret anything? Like, what is the ending that I want? And that's the question that I'm asking you. What's the ending that you want? You, BG. Oh. I want you to answer that question, BG.
Well, I hear you're asking a question, but what does Eddie have to say? And then I can go on.
Okay.
Oh, go for it. Go for it, man.
I mean, I don't really know what I want or anything. I have always viewed people with, you always look up to people with experiences, right? People that are like, have done a lot of things. And like, I don't think money matters or anything like that. I could go down kind of a spiraling thing. That's something like, that's why I'm going to therapy now and like trying to work things through, is just to figure out what I'm doing or what my goal is and how I be fit, because there's so many ideas of like, oh, I could go do this, I could do that. And that's just in like a career setting. But at the end of the day, like, obviously you kind of want the American dream in a way, but then at the same time, it's like, are you being like, I have this negative view of like, you're getting robbed of life, I guess, in a way, because you settle down and then you don't get to experience life in different ways. But that's, I guess that's not really a topic I really wanted to go. I was trying to think of like, how do we, for people or individuals that are listening to this, what are things, or like, how can we help, or people, our experience of getting out, how do we help them kind of redirect their purpose?
That's kind of what I'm trying to do here.
Yeah.
Is it's backwards planning. So
Yeah.
the question for you is, you already said that career domain and that financial domain means shit. So this is what me and Hudson are always talking about variable reduction. So that's gone. What's left? And I can infer some things because I've been similar in your shoes, where I would say something along the lines of, I just want to be happy and I want to be proud of what the fuck it is that I've done. And there was like this experience I had the second time I went to rehab, where I was in like this group therapy session with like 8 people, and all of them were pogues except for me. So I was the only infantry dude, and the therapist was like, she had something that she had to do that was like super difficult or whatever. So she was like, you're gonna do it. And me being the tough guy, I was like, all right, cool, yeah, I'll do it, whatever. She told me to walk over to there was like a mirror and a sink in the corner, and she was like, I want you to walk over to the sink and I want you to stare yourself in the eyes for 60 seconds. And then I want you to say one nice thing about yourself out loud to yourself. And I sat there for almost 3 minutes and I could not speak, and I fucking cried for a very long time. And I went and sat my fucking dumb ass back down in the chair. So for me, the answer is always I want to feel good about me. Because even if I end up in prison, if I end up homeless, whatever, as long as I'm happy with me, and I know money doesn't mean shit, and I know all of those things can buy happiness or whatever, but at the end of the day, I'm the one that has to be alone with myself. Even if I don't have a woman and my kids are gone, I have to be okay with me. And I feel like that's the answer there.
I think where like a lot of the stress comes in is, we're kind of supposed to be that alpha male, that very stoic individual that, goes from, you know, bloodbath 1 minute to, holding their child the next minute. And, it's basically forced into us that we need to be able to handle the full spectrum of emotions at any point in time. And, when we do deploy and we do the things we do, and then we come back, we've got, that 1 or 2 week reintegration kind of thing, and we're supposed to, just kind of use that to cure all our problems, that hit us, when we were on deployment, and just flush out those negative feelings. Unfortunately, the problems usually don't arise until, a month or a couple months later. And, yeah, I just think it's really hard to adjust. Like I don't know how it was like Buck for you guys when y'all came back from doing your stuff. Because I'm pretty sure you guys might have deployed for 3 months at a time, but it was 4 times a year, kind of thing.
Most of my tours are about 9 months long, and we've come back for like 6 month break, and that's that's one of the biggest problems we have. The Vietnam vets they set them free. The Marines, I guess, got extended 4 months. I couldn't even water my clear.
You need an 18 echo in there for you. Your comms suck.
Am I really cutting in and out?
Yeah.
Dang it.
Yeah. But like I said, we have a lot of this like pseudo support when we come back, and it really feels more like a check the block kind of thing, as opposed to like, let's prepare you and make you, more successful, or give you the tools to make you more successful in, your reintegration and getting back to just, garrison life and family life.
Hey, Beachy, as a single soldier, what is it? Do you want a wife at the end of the day? Do you want
Oh
kids?
yeah, of course.
So,
Yeah.
how do you get that? Oh wait. Let me not ask that question. Let me ask. When you have it, do you want to be a miserable fuck? Do you want to like have PTSD on your kids, or do you want to develop your kids in order to be able to deal with the things that you've dealt with, so that they don't have the problems that you have now?
Yeah, 100%. I think I have miles to go to accomplish where I need to be mentally, because I mean, like I have a partner right now, and she's like, we can't even think of kids right now because you can't even have control of your little temperament and your outrage and stuff like that. So it's like, it's one of those things. Like, it's something that I want, but it's like, obviously I have to get myself right. And I'm trying to take those steps, but it's like, I don't know. I guess I gotta just trust the process and then just do the work, because obviously therapy is more work in yourself than it is just like going to therapy and thinking it's gonna fix it. We've had that conversation, but I find it hard. I find it difficult because you can go to a thing and then it's like you're doing the work, but then how do I say this? Like, am I doing, like, I always question myself, am I doing enough work? Am I actually making any changes? Like, I constantly do that, and I doubt myself to where it's like, am I actually going anywhere? Like, and I don't have, there's no one, because like I've had that conversation with you, it's like, I might not have like a complete outburst with my partner, but like, but she sees it as like, okay, you've lost your shit. But I'm like, but I thought I did really good. Like, and there's no comparison and there's no one there. And then obviously, like when you go to your therapist, she wasn't there at the time, or he, or whoever you're seeing, and then you tell them, and then it's like, they might side with you a little bit, but then it's like you don't know if you're making any sort of progress. And I think that's where I'm falling at right now, is because I want these things, but I'm not like down the line, obviously, but I'm working on myself.
Yeah, I remember this conversation specifically, and you said something along the lines of, it's frustrating when I feel like I'm making progress, but my partner does not see it.
Yeah.
And then
100%.
I made the analogy to you of like, what if the tables were turned and she was cheating on you, but then now all she's doing is kissing other dudes? Are you still going to be okay with it? You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, that's fair. Yeah.
I feel like a lot of this stuff is about being able to, with women specifically, you have to be able to take on their emotions and not allow their emotions to affect yourself, right? Mm-hmm. The way in which you're interacting with them. And then that comes with a lot of like emotional understanding or expression, I guess is the word, or being aware of what it is that you're feeling yourself.
And, the way I heard about that when it's like, engaging with women and stuff like that is, I actually want to say it was like a priest or some kind of religious preacher or something like that, but he talked about, the difference between how men and women speak or think. Men were natural problem solvers. So if our significant other comes to us and they start talking about an issue, our immediate thought is to like, I got to fix this. I got to come up with a solution. Well, when women are talking to us about, these issues or problems they have, they just want to be, one, validated in their feelings, and yep. Two, they just want to know how we would feel about that.
From their perspective. From them.
Yeah, and we're very compartmentalized the way we think.
That's key from their perspective.
Yep.
That's funny.
Exactly. Yeah. And like the way men think, we look at it as, the way our brains operate. We've got a shelf with a bunch of different levels on it, and there's boxes. The boxes don't touch each other, they don't interact with each other, and the boxes are labeled very specific things, car, money, house, spouse, family, hobbies, work. When she starts talking to us about something and it's like, hey, work is shitty or there's problems with the kids, that box labeled kids comes off the shelf, we open it up, we talk about whatever's in the box, we close the box up, put it on the shelf. Well, in a woman's mind, it's kind of like, we've all seen National Lampoon's Christmas vacation thing or whatever. When he grabs that ball of like Christmas lights for the house, and he pulls it up and it's just this huge ball of lights that are all wrapped around each other, and it's just a fucking mess. Well, that's kind of how women think. They look at it as everything is connected to everything else. If there's an issue with the kids, then it's gonna end up being an issue for the kids later on down the life. Or if if it's a money thing, then it's connected to house, car, kids, future, home, all that kind of shit. The hardest thing for us, I think, when we get back from being deployed or doing what we have to do, when we start talking to our wives, it's like their perception of what we do is different, and the way that they have experienced us being gone is a lot different. And we just need to open ourselves up and, make ourselves available to receive that information. Yeah, I'm still babbling because my fucking sleeping meds are kicking in, and I'm like
It's all
over
good.
here just bobbing for dick. Just
It's all good. No, but I agree with you 100%. And that that's a fight that me and my wife have consistently. And she's like, step one, validate my feelings. And for me, the way that I've always ended up rationalizing or being able to like conceptualize what's happening is that in the infantry or in the army, we're always trying to project what the enemy's motion is going to be or what the next movement is going to be. So if I'm in the position before the enemy, I have the better advantage over whatever it is. But when I'm talking with my wife, I'm into the future and I'm not with her in the present, in the moment. And the way that I've kind of to do that perspective thing, I think about it like playing video games and being on split screen. So I'm like watching it from her point of view, like, and the hard part for me is she'll say things that I know objectively I did not do, but to her that's what it was. And I have to be able to like not allow it to actually hurt my feelings, because then you start to see how she's seeing you and it can be painful sometimes.
I mean, so I know we're going down more of like the relationship thing, but I think that's like for me, just like for therapy and working on yourself, that's in like confidence, like just simple things, pissing me off or anything like that. Just trying to like fix or like see like am I making, because like you said before, it's like you're by yourself, you're alone in your own head, and like do you honestly see yourself like, oh, I'm making progress? Like I never feel like I'm making progress in my head. I just feel like I'm just a rat on a wheel, man. Like I'm never getting anything done. I don't know if that's for y'all.
At first, yeah, for sure. Especially, you have to kind of think of it as like, uh, the best way I can describe it is like an oscillation, where like you're making really big changes at first, so you're still like outside, but as you get further through time, those oscillations become smaller. So it's hard to tell at first, but I will say that eventually you can begin to tell, especially if you're doing enough variable reduction of like removing things from your life that are not helping you. Like cutting out drinking is a big one. Um, Focusing on what your problem is specifically. And I know me and you have talked a lot, and I feel like what you've established or become aware of your problem is your anger or your temperament. And I know we recently talked, and you kind of started to realize that it was from a long time ago, and it wasn't from the service, maybe.
I think it's a little bit of both. Um, it's I don't know. It's a challenge. It's definitely a challenge. I think that I think a lot of people that are getting out or anything like that, or that are going, don't think they need therapy. And then I'm sitting here saying this, like, I don't feel like I'm ever going to recover, like, or fix myself. I don't want that to be like a negative thing. I always try to push people to like, hey, go get therapy. What am I going to, sorry, I'm kind of like losing thought. But yeah, I think, sorry, give me a second.
You're good.
I think it's challenging to trust in counseling, trust that it's gonna help. I think it's challenging that it's like if doing the work yourself by yourself, and I think it's challenging to like even have hope. I think I am a very negative person, and I think I'm not trying to say everyone here is negative, but like I'm negative on everything. And then how you guys are like, I think the worst in everything, and I stress over everything now. And maybe that's just the type of person I am. It's hard to think of how you're gonna overcome that, I guess.
So, Beachy, it's almost like you've conditioned yourself to be like, all right, this is what's happening now. Great one. Anyhow, this is what's happening now. Like, but what if it doesn't work out like this? Then what am I gonna do? And what's gonna happen? And then like it turns out you just get so lost in your own mind, and you get so deep in the weeds, like you just turn into just a pile of shit. And like, so yeah, I deal with that too. Like, just you just get lost in your own head and you just go right down the road. So, like, you like have to like force yourself to rewire yourself. Like,
Do you think you're a better person now than you were a long time ago?
I don't know, better, different. Yeah, absolutely. Like no one's without faults. Like to say like I'm better, I feel like that's reaching just a little too high on the ladder. But
Why?
you know that's also where
Why?
that negativity comes.
Yeah, it was like, why?
Yeah. So it's like, you know, and it's so like every morning I wake up and I eat oatmeal at a table. Like
Okay.
that's what I'm thankful for. I have a table with a roof over my head and I'm eating food. 4 in the morning, there I am, just.
So you're
like,
you're at the bottom of Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Cool. What about your esteem? How do you feel about you, motherfucker?
Well, that's the thing is like, all right, so I've got this for myself. Like, I have this.
Mhm.
Like, okay, and then like, all right, so I'm gonna eat my oatmeal and I'm gonna go to the gym. Cool. So like, I'm doing that for me, you know.
Mhm.
And I feel very much like the gym is just as much about mental as it is physical. Like, because if you can do something good for yourself, you know, like, it makes things better, I guess. I don't know. But, like...
For sure. It releases endorphins. It makes you feel good. You know, strong
Oh,
body,
absolutely.
strong
The
mind.
chemical side of it's just,
sure.
yeah.
For sure. But my question is do you think you're a better person today than you were when you were 16?
I mean, I'm definitely breaking less laws. So, you know, there's that.
So you're a better person.
Yeah. Like...
That's my answer to your question, BT, is you have to like give yourself the benefit of the doubt and like a grain of salt, you know what I mean? There was a long time where like I would tell my life story, right? Like I smoked meth from the time I was 13 till I was 18, and to me, that's just my life, you know what I mean? But then other people would like come out of the woodwork sometimes and be like, yo, bro, you've been through a lot and you've made it past these things, and you know, you should be proud of that. And I never even thought that there was anything that I should be proud of. You see what I'm saying? So you have to like, I think your therapy specifically is anger management. And there's other types of therapy where you have CBT and EMDR is what I went through specifically. And we've talked about this, and I will harp on EMDR being the best PTSD therapy ever. However, when you're in the middle of EMDR, it gets worse before it gets better. Like I thought at one point my wife was pregnant and I was gonna die and like be reincarnated as the baby or some crazy shit. But that was because of like I'm rewiring a bunch of thoughts and beliefs inside of my head, all of these like assumptions and cognitions that I have about the world. But do you think you're better now than you were before, BT?
Yes, I definitely think I am better now than I was before. I think I have more experience.
Do you let
But
yourself...
I also think I've added more problems than what, like, because a 16-year-old self or 18-year-old self or 21-year-old self to now, like, you can say you've added more issues, problems from experience or, you know, the day-to-day or anything like that. You've increased more issues, you know?
For sure. What about you, Buck? Do you think you're a better person now than you were when you were a kid?
In different ways, yeah.
I think that's like Go ahead.
I used to have these like core things that I didn't have to worry about, like honesty. I would never ever tell a lie, and now I have to like think about it more. Like, what would I have done 5 years ago? Yeah, I told the truth. Right. but it used to be so intrinsically ingrained in me. I don't know what the difference is. It's different. I was going to ask you guys if anyone, because I think a lot of problems stem from this is, have any of you guys ever had mefequine? Melphaquin. It's an anti-malaria drug.
Yeah, I think I took Doxy.
Yeah, I took Doxy.
Yeah, I've seen more deaths from after action methadone use than anything else, really.
What's the problem there?
It they warn you when you first start taking it, like, oh, you're gonna have really psychotic, surreal dreams. It's you find out later that you do have these, like, within the week, like you first take it, it's a once a week tab, and you do have these psychotic surreal dreams. And the problem is when you're on mefequine, those dreams are written to your long-term memory. So guys are literally dreaming up their own demons, and then they get back and they're drinking them away. I know more dead Green Berets probably from mefequine than died in combat.
Is that what that dude was doing when he like went out into sector and then like assassinated a bunch of people in a village? Is that what that was?
That could have been that. I don't think that was a Green Beret though.
No, it wasn't the SF dude. It was like I don't know. He like walked off the fob and like killed a bunch of people and then came back and then blamed it on his malaria pills.
If that very well could be that.
That's interesting you say that, because I remember people taking just Doxy and having wild dreams themselves. Now, maybe not as so much on the prescription that you're saying, but now has the Army, or let's just say the military and all, acknowledged this?
They've stopped giving it, and they acknowledged it way before. So I was getting ready to get out of the Army. I was getting back tired after 23 years, and one of the guys showed me this old aviator Hero Medical Exam or aviation book, and it said if somebody had ever had mefequine, they were never allowed to fly. Like, you're not allowed to be a pilot. And that was like from the 90s or something. But it's not in the current literature. So they knew it back then before they gave it out.
That's crazy.
That's nuts, because don't we still give our pilots Pervitin?
I don't know.
Like our SR-71 pilots and stuff like that, like our ultra long range, which is just medical grade methamphetamine. It's
I've always heard rumors about that kind of stuff. Like during the invasion, I was up for like 72 hours. I wish I had something like that to help.
Well, you always hear rumors like that, but I've never seen it either.
Am I coming through more clear and unbroken now?
Oh yeah, for sure.
yeah,
for sure.
Man, we jumped so many topics, so I was like, so I'm gonna kind of keep track of that.
Yeah, I agree. It's kind of, we were spiraling everywhere.
So, I always say this. I have this little saying. It's just easy day, and it means different things to different people. Easy day to me is, we're not putting anybody in a body bag today, so we're having a real easy day. So anything that comes at you in life, you're probably having a pretty easy day comparatively, and so it helps me kind of mitigate stress and anything else and anger.
For sure, absolutely.
And I think that touches back to when we say first world problems, like they're not as important to us, and it's another way of saying easy day. Don't stress out about it. Nobody's getting killed today, so.
This is very true. I found for me that I was misinterpreting information, if that makes any sense. Where like I do that on a daily basis. Go on.
Where
I would see something and I would make a mountain out of a molehill. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
A lot of that I found out is a direct one-to-one from symptoms of PTSD, where the hypervigilance, the reckless and self-destructive behavior, we all don't like to admit that we're scared of anything, right? But at the end of the day, we talked about this at the beginning, my greatest fear was that I was going to be responsible for the death of somebody else.
Exactly.
So I take that now to like, I don't want to be responsible for the problem. I want to be as best that I can be, so that the problem isn't me and it's something else. So then I'm always trying to solve some problem and I make it worse than what it is. But we even teach this in the Army, like tactical patience. Sometimes you just have to allow the situation to develop, and then some actions don't warrant a response. Like some things in life don't. You don't have to fuck with it.
Yeah, that's good. Sage advice there. Some things don't warrant a response, and tactical patience is definitely a thing. I think when I grew up in the infantry, I had a couple of moments where I didn't know what to do, and I kind of waited. And as the situation developed, it developed to my advantage, and it was out of dumbness. You know what I mean? That's where
Yeah.
tactical patience thing.
Yeah, for sure.
I have always called it a tactical pause, and I think a lot of individuals need to take that. I currently probably need to do that more.
What else do I got to talk about? I want to circle back to we were talking about deployments back and forth. Most of my trips are 9 months long usually, but a lot of times we only have like a 6-month break. And I don't really think in American history that's really been asked for guys to go back to back to back to back to back. It's a different mentality. Like Vietnam guys had you had to do a year. World War II guys, they were gone for the duration. And for us, it was like back and forth. Like one day I'm in Baghdad, and then like a week later I'm at my house.
Yep.
With my wife and kids. Like, it's pretty brutal.
And half of you is still over there.
Yeah, I used to call it a switch. Like, you gotta flick that switch on and off. Another thing I used to do, and you can stop me anytime I start rambling, is
You're good.
I would start to escalate fights with my wife before I leave. And I think it was a subconscious way of like severing those heartstrings or ties. And just I wish I had that forethought now to go back in time and not do that. But maybe it was necessary at the time. I don't know.
Yeah, I've been there for sure, escalating the fight because maybe subconsciously you were trying to sever ties so that emotionally you would feel you wouldn't be stuck at home too, and you could like focus on the fight, or conversely you wanted her to feel better just in case something happened to you, because low-key you wanted her to hate you so that it would be easier if you did die. Or at least that's what I thought, thinking back on it now.
Yeah, I like the old days of the war. I used to get dropped off at we had a Campbell Army Airfield, and I'd get off the ramp, and a teammate would pick me up in a pickup truck and bring me home in the middle of the night. And then my last tours, I was in the regular Army flying Apaches, and I come back and we make a solid line up in a formation, I'm marching to my hangar, and I'm like, okay, let's just go home.
Yeah, please let me out of here. Yeah, you said something and I fucking forgot. Go ahead, Strunks, if you want to say something. No, I just the deployment thing. When I first got to my my most recent therapy session with EMDR, she was talking to me about how we were talking about the amygdala, that part of our brain that does fear response. So with you coming back home after that short amount of time, it's probably even more drastic. But for us in the infantry, when we were deployed, we were living on fobs, so it's like half-ass safety, but there's always like this very fine line of we could die at any moment. But then we're like turning the switch back on once we go out into sector, and then real shit happens, and then we come back to the fob, and then we turn it down just a little bit, but not ever all the way off. So when we come home, our switch is broken and it's stuck on, and it's triggering I think it's your autonomic nervous system, like your fight or flight response. So like for me, the question she asked me, she was like, do you have diarrhea or constipation? And I was like, yeah, like I don't shit like ever, like maybe once a day, maybe. And apparently that's like because your autonomic nervous system is so kicked on, it shuts off your rest and digest. Like I was skinny as fuck, I could never really eat, and that's just a mechanism in my brain that we have been fucking with.
That's I might be wrong on this, but so like that's like caveman shit. That's like that's genetic hardwiring, like, because if you shit, like, that's leaving your scent, that's leaving something, the ability to find out where you are. And then like and then you're fucked, right? Like, and that's your body like going into like a survival mode almost. Like I don't know if any of you have ever done like bear hunting or anything like that, but like when you're in thick brush, you smell bear. Like there's no smell like a bear in thick brush, and that's like because I grew up in Washington State on the west side in like thick brush and stuff, and you know like you deer hunt, you elk hunt, like you go out cat hunt and stuff like that. Like and you start smelling bear, and like it gets pretty intense real quick, and it's the same thing for humans. Like so, like when you quit shitting and stuff like that, it's a survival mode to do that. So yeah.
Are you still married, Buck?
Oh, no, no.
How long has that been?
I think I got divorced in 2014. It's funny because I had to come back from Afghanistan to get divorced, and my wife was in jail.
Oh shit!
And I had five kids, and so I ended up with sole custody of 5 kids. My dad came down to help out. The day after my divorce was finalized, my unit had me on a plane back to Afghanistan to finish that tour.
Jesus.
And
so you had to
then
do a family care plan and then just head straight back.
Yeah, and then I came back, and I was working on my retirement paperwork, and they were asking guys to go back again with a different unit. And I was like, I don't. Any of the time I would have said yes, but I can't. I gotta take care of my kids. And about 3 months later, I was voluntold to swap brigades and redeploy again. And I think I could have said no, but I didn't have it in me to say no. I did it again.
So, are you still have full custody of your 5 kids?
Yeah, oh yeah.
How has that been, being a single dad? Or
It's helped keep me on course, so I don't drink a little bit here and there, but not much. I just take pleasure in, the 2 of them have graduated now, but before then, I would take pleasure in walking them down the driveway and putting them on the bus, and
yeah, for sure.
Being there when they got off the bus every day, helping all the homework. And it's been nice to kind of catch up on all the years I missed.
For sure. So there's this good.
It's probably been therapeutic for me, and I was going to say this about therapy. I had a time in my life, I was in aviation too, but I had a time in my life where I had just severe contempt and just just any. I was in an aviation brigade, and I feel like all these guys were in brigade like chickens with their head cut off trying to get problems solved that don't really accomplish any more function or effort.
Yeah.
I was starting to get this hatred and contempt and build up and pressure in my head, and I was worried that I was going to burst. I told the doc about this, and I ended up self-referring myself to occupational therapy. And I thought what is this soft-skilled, soft-handed life?
Yeah.
And it really was good for me. It really helped out, calmed me down, and put that in perspective, and it can be a good thing.
There's only 2 things in life you can control: your actions and your reactions. And I feel like that was the thing that I took from therapy early on that helped me the most. It's always, for me with my kids, how old is your youngest?
Oh, right away with the tough questions. He's in 6th grade, so he's 11. He'll be 12 in December.
Yeah, so I didn't meet my eldest daughter till she was a year old because I was in Afghanistan and I was in Germany in the middle of a PCS. So I came home and I just remember kind of like what you were saying about just a general disdain for everybody. But for me, it was I've always not trusted people, which for me, my greatest fear is to end up believing a lie in some sense. I don't know if I can distill that any better than that. But with my daughter and my son and my newest daughter, who's only 18 months, this is the first baby that I've been home for and got to watch the birth and shit. When I see this little girl, these kids don't have any ill will towards me. I can't believe in any way, shape, or form that they want to hurt me in any way. And I feel like that was like the most therapeutic part of the whole thing. Like I can trust this thing 100% of the time. Like 100% of the time, because all it wants to do is be happy, and the only thing it really wants is my attention and to spend time with me. And then doing that, I realized I don't even know how to fucking play. Like I don't know. Like my daughter wanted me to like crawl around and pretend to be like animals and shit, and I would just sit there and I was like, yeah, I don't know how to do this. Like I can't bring myself out of myself to like do this. And once I realized that, like I was like, I'm fucked up. Like I need to go get some help. I need to be able to play with my fucking kid.
That's good. Kids bring you back, keep you grounded.
This is what I was saying. Individuals that get out and don't have kids and family, they don't really have anything to like live for or, you know, be present for. They're just kind of like going about their daily life. And I guess, I mean, for me, miserable.
Give yourself a new mission in life, man. Like maybe it's taking care of other veterans. I keep my ringer on. I answer the phone night and day. Anyone that has my number calls me. I will wake up in the line. I've lots of friends who I think rely on me to answer the phone when they need guidance and help, you know, or just need somebody to talk to.
For sure. That was kind of my point earlier. Beachy was like, what is the end state? You got to sit down with yourself and figure out like what you are the one writing the commander's intent now. You know what I mean? You're the one that's deciding what the mission is going to be and what mission is worth it. And that's why I have a problem when people say first world problems, because it almost is like they want to go back to third world problems. Like the first world isn't good. Like this isn't what we want to begin with. So sitting with yourself and figuring that part out, I feel like is the first step. So where do you want to go, BT? Do you want to make the world a better place?
You can't be asking me those questions right now. I honestly, I don't even know where to point you or anything. That's something I've been sitting with myself for a while, trying to figure it out. Maybe it's living behind fear of pulling triggers and going and trying some new things, or it's maybe I'm just, I don't know. That's more of a, I don't think a podcast conversation, I would say.
Okay. It's always
Beachy, how old are you?
29.
Okay.
I think we're all like about 30. Right, you're 30 something, right, Strings?
Go ahead, Buck.
How old are you?
I'm 46.
Damn old man in this motherfucker. I always talk shit to Eddie because he's been in Kosovo. But yeah.
So the real question that you have to ask yourself, I think, is like, do you deserve happiness?
Ooh.
Do you and that's not even a question like you can honestly answer like outside. That's something you have to ask internally and then answer truthfully internally to yourself. Like, do I deserve to be happy? And like I can tell you, like I had my come to Jesus moment, for lack of better terminology. Like I deserve all the happiness. Like I don't care. I don't care. Like I personally believe for myself that I deserve all the happiness. Do I know exactly what that is down to like the micros? Absolutely not. But when I started telling myself, like, I deserve all the happiness, like, I think that's when my, like, rewiring started. Because, like, and it was uncomfortable, I'll tell you that much. But, like, I started telling myself, like, no, I deserve all the happiness in the world. Why? Because my world is my life. And, like, I can't control anything else. Like, I can control myself, and that is where it ends. But in my world, my life, my reality, I deserve all the happiness. Do I have any idea what that means? Absolutely not. But you better believe tomorrow morning when I wake up and I'm eating my dumbass oatmeal at my stupid table, like, I deserve all the happiness and it. Like I don't care. Like I deserve to be happy because it's my life. Fuck everyone else.
Good job. I'm happy for you. 6 months ago, you wouldn't have said that.
No, no, no. So, but like, and then like, so I bounced in a bar next week, you know, like, and I can like step back and I can look and like someone will be confrontational, and like I'm starting to read between the lines. Like I was talking about this guy last Thursday, like this dude's got some massive insecurity issues, and all he's doing is projecting, and like. I mean, it would have been easy just to like punch him square in the upper lip and hit all the nerve endings and just put him on the floor. Like, but then like I'm sitting there like watching this guy just have like this absolute conniption fit over nothing, and it's like, oh, old boy's he's got some internal gears just burning in place, and it's like this guy. I don't know if this guy thinks he wants to be happy.
Funny, I said conniption fit a while back. I'm like, what's that?
You're showing your age, boys.
Yeah. So like, I deserve all that. I do.
I'm hella impressed right now
With what?
with what you just said about him projecting and him having insecurities. So that's why he's interacting with the reality the way that he is.
Yeah, and like this guy was, you know, or last night, like this guy was getting just unwound over a bar stool, and it's like, it's Tuesday at like 11 o'clock in a bar.
No, chill out.
And you're this upset about a generic bar stool. Like, hey buddy, like we get it, something else is going on. And again, like the guy was drunk, he was stupid, like he was just, and it would have been easy just to kick him square in the chest.
Yeah,
because he was a pretty short little son of a bitch. But like, it's like, okay, like there's bigger issues going on. So, and I don't think those people those people don't think that they deserve happiness. And I think that's really what most of it comes down to.
but if you ask them, they would say they think they do. You know what I mean?
Well, yeah,
But they don't.
You know, but that's after they're like just having these out of pocket moments.
I agree with you.
And then you can also argue, just to follow the rabbit hole on down, like, so the only honest people are drunk adults and small children. You ask a child, hey, do you like my shirt? And they'll like, no, it's dumb. You know, but you ask like an adult, and they're going to be like, no, you look lovely. It matches your ears. And you're like, great. But a child's going to be like, no, it's stupid. You know, and then you ask a drunk adult, you know, and they'll be like, man, it doesn't match your socks. And it's like, I'm not wearing socks, sir. And they're like, well, if you were, it'd be dumb because you have a dumb shirt on. So,
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
that goes back to what I was saying about the truth and believing people. But Beachy, specifically with these single soldiers, I understand what you're trying to do here. And the point that I would say to drive home is sitting with yourself and figuring out what it is that you actually want. And then the next question is should you want that? Because I know when I first got out, me and my wife weren't together, and all I did was a bunch of fucking cocaine because I thought that that's what made me happy. I just did a bunch of drugs and I drank myself into a DUI, and I almost, right, like I ended up getting hospitalized for how much I drank. I had pancreatitis, and it was not good. So there is something to be said for some like Dionysus fucking hedonistic shit that's not good for you. Where like because it makes me feel good, I'm going to keep doing it. There is some level of discipline that you have to maintain, and drugs and alcohol are usually the thing that you need to remove first. But then that statement that Strunk's made about you deserve happiness, well, what does happiness look like? What's going to make you happy? And for me, the answer to that question was the opposite of my childhood. How do I get to there? How do I get that? And that's, you know, if you're a single dude, that usually entails having a good woman at your side, a partner, that you can believe in and trust, and then create these other little fucking minions that are running around and then helping raise them not have the same problems that you had as a kid. I feel like that's a pretty good goal to have.
I don't know if I'd say that. So you can't make anyone else happy until you make yourself.
Sure.
Like, and I mean, we're speaking on vast ends of the situation, right? But if you're just the most miserable son of a bitch, like, you're not doing anyone any favors by trying to bring someone else into the situation. So, like, consciously or subconsciously, you have to be okay with yourself to some extent before you can bring someone important into your life. You know, and like, so my worst moments are always like laying in bed at like 3 a.m. or like 2 a.m. That's when the monsters start for, you know, like, lack of clinical terms or whatever. But like, my mind gets going and it's just out to the wind and the weeds from there. And then like you start thinking about like, I'm this, I'm that, I'm not, you know, worth this, that, this, I'm never going to be anything, I'm a fucking loser, blah, blah, blah. You know, and then like, that's the silence is the loudest. The roaring silence, that's what I was trying to say. You know, and then like, and your mind just goes absolutely ape shit. And you have to quiet those demons inside your head. You know, and you just gotta be alert. Like, you have to like sell yourself, I deserve to be happy. Because if you're not okay, like, upstairs, man, you are just not cool, like, with the rest of yourself. Like, the hell with everybody else. Like, that I mean, that's just my personal experience. Like, you know, you can go out and you can just, all right, the hell with it. Yeah, like, you can pick up sluts left, right, center, forth, back, whatever. Like, you can do it 24/7, 365. There's not exactly a lot of complicated sex to, like, the whole, you know, primal breeding aspect of it. But, like, at the end of the day, that doesn't make you happy. That's just bearing the problems. Like, and you're still going to have those moments when it's just the monsters start talking. Like, and you, like I said, man, like, when I started, like, selling myself on I deserve all the happiness in the world, I think that's when things started, like, turning around. And that's such a hard thing to convince people on. Because if they're screaming at themselves, like, you don't deserve it, you're a piece of shit, you don't deserve it, you're a piece of shit, like, how do you weasel your way in there and be like, hey, bro, like, maybe you do deserve something.
For sure. I think that's a pretty good ending right there.